So today is Election Day in the United States of America anyway, which, you know, depending on your frame of mind, has a big impact on how your day is going, actually. Because of how the United States influences the world, there might be a lot of consternation in the world as people are looking to see what in the world these crazy, ignorant, or whatever, or well-informed Americans, depending on your point of view, depending on who wins, are going to do today. So that's one kind of big event that we can fret over or ignore or whatever. And then the other big event that probably most of the world is not so excited about, but we're celebrating, is Lhabab Duchen, which is the day when the Buddha descended from the God realm of the 33 after teaching his mother the Dharma, which is celebrated very much in the Tibetan tradition as one of the 4 principal Buddhist holidays. So we're rejoicing about that today. So Zopa did some research, and I was also planning to do this talk today anyway, to talk a little bit about what Lhabab Duchen is about and why we would celebrate. So the way one of the stories goes, and there's a few actually versions of this, that the Buddha was meditating, and in his meditation he had a thought of his mother, and in that thought he had such profound gratitude for his mother giving him life. His mother, Maya Devi, died 7 days after his birth, and he was raised by his stepmother, Mahaprajapati, his aunt, yes, his stepmother became his aunt, his mother's sister, and she became the first nun. But meanwhile, his mother was reborn in the God realm of the 33, where Indra, the god, ruled. And so the Buddha, in that thought of meditation, saw where she was and wanted to go benefit her out of a wish to repay her kindness. And so it's said that he went there immediately with his special powers and began to teach in the God realm. But his disciples had no idea where he was. They were quite concerned. Can you imagine, like here or anywhere where you're used to having your teacher around, and then one morning she doesn't pick up her breakfast? And then what? A lot of alarm, maybe, or concern, or depending on your level of development, because fortunately many of his disciples were arhats, they could look and see where he was and reassure everybody that he was okay, and that he was there for a good reason. So he did teach his mother, and he did teach in the God realm, and his mother became an arhat. She achieved liberation from cyclic existence as a result of that teaching. After 3 months, the disciples begged Moggallana to please go to the God realm and ask the Buddha to come back, that we weren't quite ready to have him be gone. So he accepted, and then on this day, which is it's measured by the moon, the 22nd day of the 9th lunar month in the Tibetan calendar, he descended from the Tushita heaven on a series of ladders produced by Indra to help him return. So there was great, huge celebration. And so that's like part one of the beauty of this story, is the rejoicing at the return of the teacher and what a benefit it was for the students, and also what for the disciples. And what an opportunity to create merit, really, in the welcoming. So Zopa found a lovely story that's in the Chinese canon, that I don't think it's certainly not in the Tibetan renditions that I looked at. The story of a nun named Utpala, who wanted to be the first person to greet the Buddha when he came down from heaven. She was so excited to have him return. But then all these kings and ministers and wealthy people who were also his disciples and patrons also want to be the first person to welcome the Buddha as he came down from heaven. And they had big armies and entourages, and you know, they could take up a lot of space. And she was just a little nun. Just a nun. We shouldn't say that anymore if I think of all the great things that just a nun has done. But that's another BBC. As a result of Utpala's devotion, she was transformed into a universal monarch, had 7 treasures, and the most elaborate troops surrounded her. And in that way, she got the best position at the foot of the ladder to greet the Buddha as he came down. So she was the first one to welcome him. She got her wish based on her great devotion. When she greeted the Buddha, she reverted back to herself as a nun. And at that moment, the Buddha predicted her future enlightenment. So, you know, the stories go that in order to really, as you're about to enter into the final stages of your bodhisattvahood, the Buddha, you get a prediction directly from the Buddha. So she got one on that day out of her devotion to having the teacher return. So another part of this story is that on that same day, while he was descending the ladder, the Buddha looked up to heaven and he opened up the heavens so that the people on earth could actually see the God realms, and the God realms could see the people on earth. And he looked down to the hell realms, and the people in the hell realms could see the people on the earth, and they could see the people in the God realms. So in an unprecedented situation, people of all these realms were able to see each other and to kind of recognize each other and see that these realms existed. To me, this relates to Election Day. That part of the story really relates to Election Day. I mean, here we are in the God realm of the United States, completely stressed out about what's going to happen and what's going to come. And it's true, there is some really devastating suffering going on in the world. But what does our worry and stress do to alleviate that suffering? Zero. What does our cultivation of compassion, our cultivation of wisdom, our devotion to our teachers so that we are, you know, can transform our minds, what does that do to the stress on this planet? A lot. A lot, a lot. And we can take action by doing things, as we've been speaking recently, of like Bhikkhu Bodhi, establishing the Buddhist Global Relief that really affects change on a very physical level. And or we can establish monasteries where people can practice, and or we can support that kind of practice, and we can sit on our cushions and change our own minds. That's the kind of work that will make a huge difference no matter who gets elected today. And there will be people in the US who are going to think the God realms return today, and there are people in the US who are going to think the hell realms return today. And different people are going to think different things depending on what we find out by about 6 o'clock tonight. And that's important on one level. But in another way, that is a problem of this life. And what the Buddha opened up was the opportunity to really see this is our potential. God realm, human realm, hell realm, or even the prediction of full awakening that he gave to this nun Utpala, liberation that he gave to his mother Mayadevi. Buddhaghosa composed a commentary to the Dhammapada, it is said, and he is quoted after this miracle. On this day, when the beings of all realms saw each other, there was not one who did not want to be a Buddha. Then the Patamasambodhi says it even more strongly. At that time, all of the devas, humans and beasts, even down to the tiniest red or black ant who saw the Buddha, there was not one among them who did not desire Buddhahood. And so that's the story of Lhabab Duchen. To find the place inside of us that desires above everything else Buddhahood. And of course we engage in the civic activities of our society. We contribute to the best of our ability. But we never lose sight of our potential and of the goal. And so we can make great prayers that all of the candidates will also recognize their great potential and someday become Buddhas as well. Any office, any government in the world, we make prayers all the time for the wisdom of the leaders of the world. So we can really especially do that today, as Lhabab Duchen and Election Day coincide, and really make our own aspirations to be able to become Buddhists for the benefit of all beings.